Captain Lee Dongwu sat in the back row of the Great Council Chamber. The room was huge, bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. 47 different alien species sat in circles around the center floor. Each species looked different from the others. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked like they were made of metal. The Galactic Council had been meeting for 3 days now. They were all here to talk about one thing: humans. Lee Dongwu was the only human allowed to watch the meeting. He wore his best military uniform, but he felt very small in this place. In the center of the room stood Delegate Vorthak. He was tall, maybe 8 feet, with dark green scales that shined under the bright lights. His eyes were yellow and cold. When he spoke, his voice was deep and scary. All the other aliens listened to him carefully. "Fellow delegates," Vorthak said, "we are here to discuss the human problem. This species has been in space for only 50 years, but they have already caused trouble in 3 star systems." Dr. Park Jimin, the human scientist, sat near the front. She was writing notes on a small device. She had been studying the aliens for months, trying to understand how they thought. She looked worried as she listened to Vorthak speak. Vorthak walked to a big screen that showed pictures and videos. "Let me show you what humans have done," he said. The first picture appeared. It showed the remains of a Vrex pirate fleet. The ships were completely destroyed, broken into tiny pieces floating in space. "The Vrex pirates attacked a human trade ship," Vorthak explained. "They thought it would be easy. The human ship was small and had weak weapons. But the humans did something no one expected. They turned their own cargo into bombs. They made antimatter weapons from simple trade goods. In 10 minutes, they destroyed an entire pirate fleet of 30 ships. Some aliens in the room made worried sounds. Others shook their heads. The Vrex delegate, a creature with 6 arms and red skin, looked angry. "This was not normal fighting," Vorthak continued. "Normal species use proper weapons. They follow the rules of war. Humans do not follow rules. They make new weapons from anything they can find." The screen changed to show another scene. This time it showed Zephyrian ships surrendering without any fight. The Zephyrians looked like tall birds with blue feathers. "Here we see the Zephyrian collective," Vorthak said. Humans wanted to use their space roots. Instead of asking nicely or fighting fairly, humans did something strange. They sent messages to every Zephyrian ship. The messages contained human music, human stories, and human jokes. The Zephyrian delegate stood up. "The humans drove our crews crazy," he said in a high voice. "Their entertainment was too strange, too wild. Our people could not understand it. They became confused and scared. We surrendered because we thought the humans were insane." Lee Dongwu felt his face get hot. These aliens were calling his people crazy. But Ambassador Kim Tae-ho, the main human representative, had told him to stay quiet and listen. Vorthak nodded. "Yes, the humans used psychological warfare, but not the kind we understand. They did not try to scare the Zephyrians with threats. They scared them by being too different, too unpredictable." The screen showed the last example. It was a recording of a moon being moved through space like a giant ball. The moon had been hollowed out and turned into a weapon. "The Trojan asteroid incident," Vorthak said. "Humans were fighting the Corvan Empire over a small planet. The Corvans had better ships and more soldiers. Any normal species would have given up or asked for help. But humans took a moon from another system. They dug out the inside and filled it with engines and weapons. Then they threw it at the Corvan fleet. The Corvan delegate, a creature that looked like a walking tree, made angry sounds. They turned a moon into a kinetic weapon," he said. "Who thinks of such things? What kind of mind looks at a moon and sees a bullet?" Vorthak raised his arms to get attention. "This is why we must act," he said. "Humans do not think like us. They see solutions where we see problems. They make weapons from things that should not be weapons. They fight wars in ways that should not work." Dr. Park Jimin stopped writing and looked up. She had been thinking about what Vorthak was saying. She realized something important. The aliens were not angry because humans were evil. They were scared because humans were different. "In 50 years, Vorthak continued, humans have gone from one planet to controlling 15 star systems. They do this not with the biggest ships or the best technology. They do it by thinking in ways that make no sense to us." Ambassador Kim Tae-ho sat very still. He was an old man with gray hair and kind eyes. But Lee Dongwu could see he was angry. His hands were tight fists on his chair. "Every war has rules," Vorthak said. "Every species follows patterns. We can predict what they will do because they think in logical ways. But humans—" He paused and looked around the room. "Humans break every rule. They make new patterns. They do things that should be impossible. The room was very quiet now. Even the air system seemed to make less noise. All the aliens were looking at Vorthak with fear in their eyes. I have studied humans for 2 years, Vorthak said. I have read their history books and watched their movies. I have learned their languages and tried to understand their minds. And I tell you this, what we have seen so far is nothing. He walked to the center of the room. His yellow eyes looked at every delegate. These examples I showed you, the antimatter bombs, the psychological attacks, the weaponized moon, these were humans being careful. These were humans trying not to hurt too many people. Some aliens made worried sounds. Others moved back in their seats. The humans have a saying, Vorthak said. They say that necessity is the mother of invention. When humans need something, they create it. When they are pushed into a corner, they become dangerous, but not dangerous in ways we can understand or predict. Dr. Park Ji-min looked at her notes. She had written down everything Vorthak said. She realized he was right about one thing. Humans did think differently, but she did not think that was a bad thing. Therefore, Vorthak said in his loudest voice, I propose that we limit human expansion. We must control their military activities. We must watch their research and make sure they do not develop new weapons or tactics. The aliens began to talk among themselves. Some agreed with Vorthak. Others seemed unsure. The room filled with the sounds of 47 different languages. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho stood up slowly. All the talking stopped. Everyone looked at the old human. Honorable delegates, Kim Tae-ho said in a calm voice, I formally object to these proposals. Humanity has done nothing wrong. We have defended ourselves and our allies. We have followed all galactic laws. Vorthak turned to face him. But you do not follow the spirit of those laws, he said. You find ways around them that no one else would think of. Kim Tae-ho smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Perhaps the problem is not that we think differently, he said. Perhaps the problem is that everyone else thinks the same. The voting began. One by one, the alien delegates chose to support Vorthak's proposals. Lee Dong-woo watched as humanity was placed under restrictions. They could not expand to new systems without permission. They could not build certain types of ships. They had to report all military research to the council. When the voting was done, Vorthak stood in the center of the room one more time. He looked directly at Ambassador Kim Tae-ho. Human, he said, I want you to understand something. We do this not from hate but from fear. We have seen what your people can do when they are calm and reasonable. May whatever gods watch over this galaxy help us all if humans ever truly go insane. Kim Tae-ho looked back at him. His old eyes were hard and cold. Delegate Vorthak, he said quietly, you have no idea what insane looks like. The council session ended. The aliens began to leave, talking among themselves about their victory. But Lee Dong-woo noticed something. They did not look happy. They looked like people who had just caged a dangerous animal and were not sure the cage would hold. Dr. Park Ji-min walked over to Lee Dong-woo and Ambassador Kim Tae-ho. What do we do now? She asked. The old ambassador looked out the great windows at the stars beyond. Now, he said, we show them the difference between human reason and human madness. And may their gods help them when we do. 3 days after the Galactic Council vote, emergency meetings were happening all across human space. On Earth, in the city of Seoul, the Human Defense Council building was full of angry voices and worried faces. General Choi Min-ho stood at the head of a long table. He was a big man with strong hands and eyes that had seen many battles. Around the table sat the most important military leaders and scientists from Earth and the human colonies. They want to put us in a cage, General Choi said, hitting the table with his fist. The holographic display above them showed the new restrictions from the Galactic Council. They say we can't expand to new star systems without asking permission. They say we can't build the ships we need to protect ourselves. Admiral Yang Soo-jin sat across from him. She was smaller than the general, but her voice was just as strong. We should show them our real power, she said. Let them see what human military force can really do. One demonstration of our full capabilities and they will change their minds. Dr. Kang So-young shook her head. She was the director of human strategic research, and she thought differently than the military leaders. Force is not the answer, she said. If we attack them directly, we prove they are right to fear us. We need to be smarter than that. Captain Lee Dong-woo had returned from the Galactic Council just hours ago. He still felt tired from the long journey, but he had important information to share. The aliens are really scared, he said. I watched them during the meeting. They were not acting from anger or hate. They were acting from pure fear. Fear of what? Asked General Choi. Fear of the unknown, Lee Dongwoo answered. They have been in space for thousands of years. They know how wars work, how technology develops, how different species behave. But humans don't follow their patterns. We do things they cannot predict. Dr. Kang So-young leaned forward. What exactly did they say about us? Lee Dongwoo thought for a moment. They have started calling us the Mad Ones. Not because they think we are stupid or evil, but because our actions don't make sense to them. They can't understand how we think. Admiral Yang Soo-jin laughed, but it was not a happy sound. So they want to control us because we are different? Yes, said Lee Dongwoo. And there is something else. Dr. Park Ji-min stayed at the council station to study the aliens. She sent me a secret report. He activated his personal display device. She has been watching how different alien species make decisions and plan their wars. The display showed charts and graphs about various alien species. Each chart showed patterns of behavior, military tactics, and technological development. Look at this, Lee Dongwoo said, pointing to the data. Every alien species follows predictable patterns. The Kelrani always attack with large fleets in direct formations. The Zephyrians use fast ships and hit-and-run tactics. The Corvins build strong defenses and wait for enemies to come to them. Dr. Kang So-young studied the information carefully. They all follow patterns based on their biology and evolution, she said. The Kelrani are pack hunters, so they fight in groups. The Zephyrians evolved from prey animals, so they run away quickly. The Corvins grew from trees, so they like to stay in one place. Exactly, said Lee Dongwoo. But humans, he showed a new chart. The human section was mostly empty, with only question marks and confused notes written by alien observers. General Choi looked at the chart and smiled for the first time since the meeting began. They have no idea how we think. Dr. Park thinks this is our greatest advantage, Lee Dongwoo continued. She says the aliens have studied war for so long that they cannot imagine new ways to fight. They see only the patterns they know. Admiral Yang Soo-jin stood up and walked to the big window that looked out over Seoul. The city was full of lights and movement. Millions of humans lived their lives below, not knowing that their future in space was being decided in this room. So what do we do? She asked. The restrictions say we cannot expand our military or explore new systems. But they don't say we cannot think, Dr. Kang So-young smiled. That's it, she said. We follow the exact words of their restrictions, but we prepare something they have never seen before. She walked to the display controls and brought up a new presentation. I have been working on something I call Project Mindbreak. It's not a weapon in the traditional sense. It's a demonstration. The display showed strange ship designs and technologies that looked like they came from a science fiction movie. Some of the ships seemed to have impossible shapes. Others appeared to be built from materials that should not exist. What am I looking at? Asked General Choi. The future of human space technology, Dr. Kang So-young answered. We have been thinking too much like the aliens. We have been building ships and weapons that make sense to them. But what if we build things that only make sense to us? Lee Dongwoo looked at the designs more carefully. These ships, how do they work? They work by using human creativity in ways aliens cannot understand, Dr. Kang said. For example, this ship here uses quantum entanglement not for communication, but for movement. It can exist in multiple places at the same time until the crew decides which location is real. Admiral Yang Soo-jin turned from the window. Is that even possible? Our scientists think it is, Dr. Kang answered. We have been studying alien technology for 50 years. We have learned how their science works, but we have also found gaps in their knowledge. Things they never thought to try because their minds don't work that way. General Choi was starting to understand. So we build ships that use science the aliens know is possible, but in ways they would never think of. Exactly, said Dr. Kang. The aliens think in straight lines. They see a technology and use it for one purpose. But humans see a technology and ask, what else can this do? We make connections they don't see. Lee Dongwoo remembered something from the council meeting. Forthak said something strange. He said what we have shown so far is nothing compared to what humans can really do. He said the examples he showed were humans being careful. The room became quiet. Everyone was thinking about what that meant. Dr. Kang So-young broke the silence. He was right, she said. Every time humans have fought in space, we have been trying not to cause too much damage. We have been trying to fit in with galactic society. But what if we stop trying to fit in? What are you suggesting? Asked Admiral Yang Sujin. I'm suggesting we show them what human minds can really create when we stop limiting ourselves to alien ways of thinking, Dr. Kang answered. Project Mindbreak is designed to demonstrate human capabilities that exist outside their understanding of reality. General Choi looked at the ship designs again. They hurt his head to look at, but he was beginning to understand their purpose. How long would this take to build? 6 months for the first prototypes, Dr. Kang said. We already have teams working on the basic technologies. We just need permission to combine them in ways that have never been tried. Lee Dongwu thought about Delegate Vorthak and his fear-filled eyes. What happens when we demonstrate these capabilities? Dr. Kang So-young smiled, but it was not a nice smile. Then the aliens will understand the difference between human reason and human madness, and they will realize they have made a terrible mistake. The meeting continued for several more hours. Plans were made, resources were assigned, and messages were sent to human colonies across space. The military leaders left feeling like they had a purpose again. The scientists left feeling excited about the impossible things they were going to build. As the meeting ended, Lee Dongwu stayed behind to talk with Dr. Kang So-young privately. Dr. Kang, he said, are we making the right choice? When the aliens see what we can really do, they might become even more afraid of us. She looked at him with serious eyes. Captain Lee, she said, they are already afraid of us. They have already restricted our growth and limited our freedom. The only question now is whether we show them that their restrictions are meaningless, or whether we let them slowly strangle human civilization. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council Station, Dr. Park Jimin was having her own meeting. She sat in her small quarters looking at data about alien psychology and behavior. She had been thinking about the council meeting and what it really meant. She activated a secure communication link to Earth. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho's face appeared on her screen. Ambassador, she said, I have been studying the aliens' reaction to our people. I think I understand what is really happening here. Tell me, said the old diplomat. The aliens are not just afraid of our military power, Dr. Park explained. They are afraid of our minds. They have built their entire civilization on the idea that intelligence follows predictable patterns. But human intelligence breaks those patterns. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho nodded slowly. So this is not really about military restrictions. This is about them trying to control how we think. Yes, said Dr. Park. And I don't think they understand what they have done. They have just told the most creative and unpredictable species in the galaxy that they cannot explore or grow. They have trapped us in a small space and expected us to be grateful. The old ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Dr. Park, I want you to stay at the council station and continue your research. Document everything the aliens do and say. I have a feeling we are going to need that information very soon. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council placed restrictions on humanity. The alien delegates believed their plan was working. Human expansion had stopped. No new colonies were being built. Human military ships were staying in their assigned areas, but strange reports were starting to come in from across the galaxy. On the Kelrani homeworld, Admiral Thex was reading these reports in his office. He was old for a Kelrani. His green scales had turned dark with age. He had fought in many wars and thought he understood how space battles worked. But these new reports made no sense to him. Sir, said his assistant, a young Kelrani named Vex, we have another sighting of human ships in the outer rim. But according to our tracking systems, those same ships are also in the inner colonies and the neutral zone. Admiral Thex looked at the holographic display showing ship positions across the galaxy. Red dots marked where human ships had been seen. There were too many red dots, and they were in places that should be impossible to reach. How can one ship be in 3 places at the same time? He asked. We don't know, sir, Vex answered. Our sensors show that ships are real. They respond to communication attempts. But when we send ships to investigate, the humans are gone. In another part of the galaxy, Captain Yu Jae-sung was smiling as he read similar reports about his own ship. He commanded the HSS Probability, the first ship built using Dr. Kang So-young's new technologies. His ship looked normal from the outside, but inside it was something completely different. Engineer Ha, he called to his chief engineer. What's our current quantum state? Engineer Ha Young-min checked his instruments. The readings were full of numbers and symbols that would have driven alien scientists crazy. We are currently existing in 17 different realities, Captain. We can collapse into any one of them when you give the order. Captain Yu nodded. This was what Project Mindbreak was all about. The humans had learned to build ships that worked according to human logic instead of alien logic. The aliens thought in terms of one reality, one timeline, one location. But humans had always been good at thinking about possibilities and alternatives. Take us to reality number 7, Captain Yu ordered. I want to visit the Vrex trade station. The ship seemed to flicker like a light bulb with a loose connection. When the flickering stopped, they were in a completely different part of space. The Vrex trade station was right in front of them. The Vrex station controllers were very confused. Their sensors showed the human ship appearing out of nowhere. One moment space was empty, the next moment a human destroyer was there asking for permission to dock. Human ship, came the voice from the station. How did you get here? Our long-range sensors show no ships approaching our position. Captain Yu smiled. We took a shortcut, he said. Meanwhile, on the Galactic Council station, Dr. Park Jimin was documenting the aliens' growing confusion. She sat in council meetings every day, listening to delegates from different species report the same impossible things. The Zephyrian delegate was speaking now, his blue feathers ruffled with worry. The humans appear to have developed teleportation technology, he said. But their ships do not use any known teleportation methods. They just appear. Delegate Vorthak stood up. In the past 6 months, he had lost weight and his scales had become duller. The stress of the human situation was affecting his health. Have any of you been able to capture or scan one of these human ships? He asked. The Corvin delegate, who looked like a walking tree, made a rustling sound that meant no in his language. Every time we try to investigate, the human ships vanish. But they leave behind energy readings that make no sense. Our scientists say the readings show the ships exist in multiple dimensions at once. Dr. Park Jimin wrote notes about everything she heard. She was starting to understand what the human ships were really doing. Dr. Kang. So Young had found a way to make ships that used quantum physics in ways that alien minds could not understand. The aliens thought in terms of solid reality. A ship was either in one place or another place. But humans had learned to think in terms of probability. A ship could be in many places until someone looked to see where it really was. Back in human space, the demonstrations were getting more dramatic. Commander Yu Jae-sung had been promoted and now commanded a small fleet of the new ships. They were about to encounter a Kelrani patrol that had been sent to investigate human activities. The Kelrani patrol consisted of 5 heavy cruisers and 10 smaller ships. They were commanded by Captain Jex, a young officer who wanted to prove himself by solving the human mystery. Human ships detected, reported the Kelrani sensor officer. One small destroyer alone and apparently defenseless. Captain Jex smiled. Finally, he would capture a human ship and learn their secrets. All ships surround the human vessel. Prepare boarding parties. The human ship was the HSS Paradox, commanded by Captain Lee Dongwoo. He had been promoted after his work at the Galactic Council, and now he commanded one of the strangest ships ever built. Kelrani ships approaching, reported his tactical officer. They want us to surrender for inspection. Captain Lee looked at his crew. They were all volunteers who had trained for months to use the new technologies. Dr. Shin, he said to the ship's psychologist, are you ready to demonstrate Phase 2 of Project Mindbreak? Dr. Shin Hee-won nodded. She had designed the psychological warfare components of the new human ships. Ready, Captain. Initiating temporal loop protocols. What happened next would be talked about in alien military academies for generations. The human ship seemed to split into multiple copies of itself. Each copy moved in a different direction. The Kelrani ships tried to follow all of them, but their targeting computers couldn't lock onto any of the copies. Then the human ship did something impossible. It flew through one of the Kelrani cruisers, passing through the solid metal hull like it was made of air. But instead of coming out the other side, it appeared inside the cruiser's bridge. Captain Jex stared in horror as a human ship materialized in the middle of his command center. His crew ran for cover, but the human ship just sat there. Taking up most of the bridge space, Kelrani vessel, came a calm human voice from the ship that was somehow inside his ship. This is Captain Lee Dongwoo. We need to talk. How are you inside my ship? Captain Jex stammered. We phased through your hull using quantum tunneling, Captain Lee explained. We exist in a slightly different dimensional state than normal matter. It allows us to pass through solid objects when we choose to. This was not entirely true. but it was close enough to the truth that the Kelrani computers would waste months trying to figure out how it worked. But that's impossible, Captain Zek said. Impossible by your understanding of physics, Captain Lee agreed. But human physics works differently than alien physics. We don't limit ourselves to what should be possible. While this conversation was happening, other human ships were demonstrating different capabilities. One ship seemed to be fighting the Kelrani fleet from 7 different time periods at once. The Kelrani sensors showed the same human ship attacking them in the past, present, and future simultaneously. Another human ship created copies of itself every time it was shot at. When a Kelrani weapon hit it, instead of being damaged, the ship would split into 2 identical ships. Soon there were dozens of human ships surrounding the confused Kelrani fleet. Dr. Shin Hye-wan was monitoring the psychological effects on the Kelrani crews. Her instruments showed that the alien minds were having trouble processing what they were seeing. Their brains were designed to understand linear time and solid matter. The human demonstrations were breaking their ability to understand reality. "Captain," she reported, "the Kelrani crews are showing signs of severe mental stress. Their minds cannot cope with non-linear physics." Captain Lee nodded. "This is exactly what we wanted to demonstrate. Open a channel to all Kelrani ships." His face appeared on the screens of every ship in the Kelrani fleet. "Kelrani officers," he said in a friendly voice, "you came here to investigate human activities. You have now seen what we can do when we follow human logic instead of alien logic. This is us being polite and careful. Would you like to see what happens when we stop being polite?" Captain Zex looked around his bridge. The human ship was still sitting in the middle of his command center, but now it seemed to be flickering in and out of existence. Sometimes he could see through it, sometimes it looked solid. "What do you want?" he asked. "We want you to go back to your superiors," Captain Lee said. "We want you to tell them that the restrictions they placed on humanity are meaningless. We have learned to think outside the box they tried to put us in." The human ships began to disappear one by one. They didn't fly away. They just stopped existing in the same reality as the Kelrani fleet. Soon Captain Zex was alone with his confused and frightened crew. "Sir," said his tactical officer, "should we report this to command?" Captain Zex looked at the empty space where the human ship had been. "What would we tell them? That humans can fly through solid matter? That they can exist in multiple times at once? That they can split into copies of themselves?" "But sir, that's what happened." "I know," Captain Zex said quietly, "and that's what scares me." Back at the Galactic Council station, similar reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any meeting in the history of galactic civilization. The Great Chamber itself seemed wrong. The walls appeared to shift when no one was looking directly at them. The lights flickered in patterns that hurt alien minds to perceive. Some delegates were aging rapidly during the meeting, while others seemed to be getting younger. Delegate Vorthak tried to call the session to order, but his voice came out wrong. Sometimes he spoke words he had not intended to say. Sometimes his words came out before he thought them. The very fabric of reality around the council station had become unstable. "Fellow delegates," he managed to say, "we are here to discuss the human situation. But as you can see, the situation has moved beyond our ability to control or understand." In the observer section, Dr. Park Jimin watched the chaos with scientific interest. She was wearing a small device that protected her from the reality distortions. The humans had anticipated that their final demonstration would affect the council station itself. "The humans have built something," reported the Zephyrian delegate, his blue feathers ruffled with fear. "Our long-range sensors detected a massive construction in human space. But when we tried to scan it, our instruments broke. Our scientists say the readings show something that should not be able to exist." Admiral Bag Ji-hoon was at that moment standing in the control center of that something. It was called the Reality Engine, and it was the culmination of everything humans had learned about thinking beyond normal physics. The Reality Engine was not a ship or a weapon in any traditional sense. It was a machine that could rewrite the fundamental constants of physics within a localized area. It could change the speed of light, alter the strength of gravity, or modify the flow of time itself. Dr. Ryu Sang-wook, the lead researcher on the project, stood beside Admiral Baek, watching the displays that showed the engine's effects spreading across local space. "Sir," he said, "the reality field is stable. We can now alter physical laws within a radius of 50 light-years. And the psychological effects on alien species? Admiral Bayek asked. Exactly as predicted, Dr. Rue answered. Alien minds are designed to understand fixed physical laws. When those laws become changeable, their brains cannot process the information. They experience what we call reality shock. Admiral Bayek nodded. This was the true purpose of the reality engine. It was not meant to destroy alien civilizations. It was meant to demonstrate that humans had transcended the limitations that other species accepted as unchangeable facts of existence. Back at the council meeting, General Na Min-su appeared as a holographic projection. He was the director of human psychological operations, and his calm presence was a stark contrast to the chaos around him. Honorable delegates, he said, I am here to explain what you are experiencing. The reality distortions you are observing are a side effect of human research into metaphysics. We have learned to manipulate the underlying structure of reality itself. The Corvin delegate made panicked rustling sounds. This is madness. You cannot change the laws of physics. They are constants. They are the foundation of existence. General Nam smiled gently. That is exactly the kind of thinking that limits your species. You see physical laws as unchangeable rules, but humans see them as suggestions that can be modified if you understand them properly. Dr. Park Ji-min activated her recording device. This conversation would be important for future human historians to understand. Let me explain what human insanity really is, General Nam continued. Every species in this galaxy has reached a certain level of technological development, and then stopped. You stopped because you accepted limitations. You believed that certain things were impossible, so you never tried to achieve them. He gestured to the reality distortions around the council chamber. But humans never learn to accept limitations. When we encounter something that seems impossible, we don't give up. We find a way to make it possible. What you call madness is actually a form of thinking that exists beyond the boundaries your minds have accepted. Delegate Vorthak struggled to speak through the reality distortions affecting his voice. But this threatens the stability of the entire galaxy. If reality can be changed at will, then nothing is certain. Nothing is safe. That is correct, General Nam agreed. And that is exactly the point. Your species have built civilizations based on the idea that the universe is predictable and controllable. But the universe is not predictable. It is not controllable. It is fluid and changeable, and humans have learned to work with that fluidity instead of fighting against it. A new voice entered the conversation. Ambassador Park Kyung-ho appeared as another holographic projection. He was older than Ambassador Kim Tae-ho, with white hair and eyes that seemed to see through everything around him. Delegates, Ambassador Park said, 6 months ago you placed restrictions on humanity because you feared our unpredictability. You tried to contain us because we thought differently than you do, but in doing so, you forced us to develop capabilities that exist completely outside your understanding. The Zephyrian delegate was shaking now. What do you want from us? What are your demands? Ambassador Park's expression was calm and reasonable. We want recognition that humanity is not subject to the same limitations that govern other species. We want the restrictions lifted, and we want full membership in galactic civilization with acknowledgement of our unique capabilities. And if we refuse? Asked Delegate Vorthak. The reality distortions around the chamber suddenly became more intense. Some delegates found themselves existing in multiple time periods simultaneously. Others discovered that their thoughts were being shared with everyone else in the room. The very concept of individual identity became fluid and changeable. If you refuse, Ambassador Park said, then you will learn what happens when humans stop trying to be reasonable and cooperative. What you have experienced so far is us being careful and restrained. This is us trying to fit into your galactic society, while maintaining our essential nature. Dr. Ryu Sang-wook's voice joined the conversation from the reality engine. The demonstrations you have witnessed, ships that exist in multiple locations, consciousness manipulation, probability alteration, time travel, these are us being polite. These are us using only a tiny fraction of what human minds can achieve when freed from alien limitations. The alien delegates were starting to understand the true scope of what they faced. The humans had not just developed new technologies. They had evolved beyond the basic assumptions that governed all other intelligent life. General Nam continued the explanation. Every major galactic power follows predictable patterns because their minds work within predictable boundaries. You evolved as hunters, prey animals, or stationary life forms And your thinking reflects those evolutionary origins. But humans evolved as adaptable generalists. Our minds are designed to see patterns and possibilities that other species cannot perceive. Admiral Beck's voice came through the communication link from the reality engine. We have learned to weaponize pure concepts. We can create paradoxes that break alien logic systems. We can generate ideas that are toxic to non-human minds. We can make thoughts that cause reality itself to become uncertain. Dr. Park Ji-min watched as several alien delegates began to show signs of mental breakdown. Their minds were trying to process concepts that their evolutionary psychology could not handle. The idea that reality was changeable was literally breaking their ability to think coherently. Ambassador Park raised his hand, and the reality distortions suddenly stopped. The council chamber returned to normal, and the alien delegates found themselves able to think clearly again. That was a demonstration of restraint, Ambassador Park said. We stopped the effects because we do not wish to cause permanent harm to your people. But you should understand that we could have continued. We could have made the distortions permanent. We could have rewritten the laws of physics throughout this entire star system. Delegate Vorthak looked around the chamber. His fellow delegates were all showing signs of shock and fear. They had just experienced firsthand what it meant for humans to think beyond normal limitations. What? What are you? He whispered. Dr. Ryu Sang-wook answered from the reality engine. We are what happens when intelligence is not limited by evolutionary boundaries. We are what happens when minds learn to think in ways that transcend the basic assumptions about reality. We are what you might call meta-rational beings, creatures that can think about thinking itself. The voting began immediately. There was no debate, no discussion, no argument. Every single alien delegate voted to remove all restrictions on humanity. They voted to grant humans full membership in the Galactic Council with special recognition of their unique nature. But more than that, they voted to create a new category of galactic citizenship: transrational species. This category would be reserved for species that had evolved beyond the normal limitations of biological intelligence. As the meeting ended, Delegate Vorthak approached Dr. Park Ji-min. Human, he said quietly. I want you to know that I understand now what I said 6 months ago. I said, may the gods help us when humans go insane. But I realize now that gods cannot help us. Why not? Dr. Park asked. The galaxy was in chaos. What had started as strange sightings of human ships had grown into something that no alien mind could understand or explain. Every major alien government was calling emergency meetings. Their scientists were working day and night, trying to figure out what humans had learned to do. On the Kelrani homeworld, the military high command was meeting in their most secure bunker. Admiral Thek sat at the head of a table filled with his best officers and scientists. The holographic displays around them showed reports from across Kelrani space. Tell me again what happened at the Outer Rim Patrol, Admiral Thek said to Captain Jex, who had just returned from his encounter with the human ships. Captain Jex looked tired and confused. His scales had lost their shine, and his eyes kept moving around the room as if he expected human ships to appear at any moment. Sir, the human ship passed through our hull like we were made of empty space. Then it appeared on our bridge. The human captain said they were using quantum tunneling to exist in a different dimensional state. And you believe this? Asked Dr. Kohler, the Kelrani chief scientist. I don't know what to believe anymore, Captain Jex answered. I saw it happen. My entire crew saw it happen. Our sensors recorded it. But according to everything we know about physics, it should be impossible. Dr. Kolar looked at his data tablet. We have received similar reports from 17 different encounters. Human ships that exist in multiple locations at once. Ships that travel through time. Ships that multiply when they are attacked. Ships that phase through solid matter. Admiral Thex hit the table with his fist. There must be a logical explanation. Perhaps they have discovered new technologies that we don't understand. That's what we thought at first, Dr. Kolar said. But we have captured some of the energy signatures from human ships. We have analyzed them for months. The readings show that humans are not just using unknown technology. They are using technology that breaks the fundamental laws of reality. Meanwhile, in human space, Captain Oh Dong-hyun was preparing for the next phase of the demonstration. He commanded the HSS Reality Hacker, a ship that pushed the boundaries of human technology even further than the previous models. Captain O was meeting with his crew in their briefing room. The walls were covered with equations and diagrams that would have driven alien scientists insane. The humans called it metaphysics, the science of thinking beyond normal science. Dr. Lim, Captain O said to his science officer, "Are the quantum consciousness manipulators ready?" Dr. Lim Yunji nodded. She was one of the youngest scientists to work on Project Mindbreak, but her mind understood concepts that even other humans found difficult. "Ready, Captain. We can now predict and alter enemy decisions before they make them. We can also implement idea bombs, concepts that will break alien thought patterns." "And the probability drive?" Captain O asked his engineer. "Fully operational," the engineer replied. "We can exist in quantum superposition until we choose which version of reality we want to collapse into. We can retroactively change the outcome of battles by altering our own probability of existing." Captain O smiled. These technologies sounded impossible even to him. But human scientists had learned something important. Reality was not as fixed as aliens believed. Reality was more like a suggestion that could be changed if you knew how to think about it correctly. "All right," Captain O said. "Our target is the Zephyrian Defense Fleet. They have been sent to establish a blockade around human space. Let's show them why blockades don't work against humans." The Zephyrian Defense Fleet was the pride of their military. 50 fast ships with advanced sensors and weapons commanded by Admiral Keth, a veteran of many wars. The Zephyrians were confident that their speed and numbers would be enough to contain any human attempt to break their blockade. Admiral Keth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the displays that showed his ships positioned around the border of human space. "The humans have been quiet for too long," he said to his officers. "I expect they will try something soon." "Sir," reported his sensor officer, "we are detecting one human ship approaching our perimeter. It appears to be alone." Admiral Keth looked at the tactical display. The human ship was indeed alone, and it was much smaller than any of his vessels. "One ship against 50? Either the humans are very brave or very stupid. Should we destroy it?" asked his weapons officer. "No," Admiral Keth said. "I want to capture it and learn their secrets. All ships, prepare to surround the human vessel." But as the Zephyrian ships moved to surround the human ship, something strange began to happen. The human ship seemed to flicker like a bad hologram. Then it split into 2 identical ships, then 4, then 8. "Sir," the sensor officer said in a confused voice, "the human ship is multiplying. We now detect 16 identical vessels." Admiral Keth frowned. "Some kind of holographic trick. Focus your sensors and find the real ship." But the sensor officer's confusion only grew. "Sir, according to our instruments, they are all real. Each ship is generating its own quantum signature. They all have the same mass and energy readings." This was the power of quantum superposition. The human ship existed in multiple probable states until someone tried to observe which state was real. But instead of collapsing into one state like normal matter would do, the humans had learned to make all the states real at the same time. Captain O was enjoying the confusion he was causing. "Dr. Lim," he said, "implement the consciousness hack. I want to know what the Zephyrian Admiral is thinking before he thinks it." Dr. Lim Yunji activated her quantum consciousness manipulator. The device could read the probability patterns of alien thoughts and predict what decisions they would make. But it could also do something more disturbing. It could change those decisions by altering the quantum states of alien minds. "I'm reading Admiral Keth's thought patterns," Dr. Lim reported. "He is about to order his ships to fire on all targets simultaneously. But I can change that decision if you want." "Do it," Captain O ordered. "Make him decide to surrender instead." Dr. Lim made adjustments to her device. Across space, invisible quantum signals reached into Admiral Keth's brain and changed the probability of his thoughts. The Admiral was about to give the order to fire when suddenly a different thought entered his mind. "All ships," Admiral Keth heard himself say, "stand down and prepare to surrender." His officers stared at him in shock. "Sir?" his weapons officer asked. "Did you say surrender?" Admiral Keth was confused. He had not meant to give that order. He had meant to order an attack, but somehow the word surrender had come out of his mouth instead. "No, I meant... He tried to give the correct order, but every time he opened his mouth, the word surrender came out. Captain O watched the Zephyrian fleet lower their weapons and send surrender signals. Dr. Lim released the consciousness hack. "Let them think freely again." Dr. Lim deactivated her device. Immediately, Admiral Keth regained control of his thoughts. "What just happened?" he demanded. Why did I order a surrender? Sir, his science officer said in a frightened voice, I'm detecting quantum interference patterns around your brain. Something was manipulating your thought processes. Admiral Keth felt cold fear wash over him. The humans had not just attacked his ships. They had attacked his mind. They had reached across space and changed his thoughts without him knowing it. Captain O opened a communication channel to the Zephyrian flagship. Admiral Keth, he said in a friendly voice, I apologize for the demonstration. We wanted to show you that human technology can affect more than just ships and weapons. We can affect consciousness itself. That's impossible, Admiral Keth said. Thoughts are private. They cannot be changed by outside forces. You just experienced it yourself, Captain O replied. We made you decide to surrender when you wanted to attack. We did this by manipulating the quantum probabilities in your brain. Your thoughts are just quantum events, and quantum events can be changed if you know how. Admiral Keth looked around his bridge. His officers were all staring at him with fear in their eyes. If humans could control thoughts, then no alien was safe from them. But that's not the most impressive thing we can do, Captain O continued. Watch this. The human ships began to do something that should have been completely impossible. They started to move backward in time. The Zephyrian sensors showed the human ships unfiring weapons that had not been fired yet, and unmoving to positions they had not left. Dr. Lim, Captain O said, implement the probability collapse. I want to show them what happens when we change the outcome of a battle that already happened. Dr. Lim activated another one of her impossible devices. Probability collapse initiated. We are now retroactively changing the beginning of this encounter. Suddenly, Admiral Keth's displays changed. According to his sensors, the battle had never happened the way he remembered. The recordings showed that his fleet had encountered not one human ship, but 50 human ships that had appeared out of nowhere and immediately demanded surrender. The recordings showed that he had surrendered without firing a shot, but Admiral Keth remembered it differently. He remembered seeing one ship that had multiplied. He remembered having his thoughts controlled. But his ship's computers insisted that the official version was correct. What did you do? He asked Captain O.